But, Dad, do you really think it matters to anybody if color registers are off a little one way or the other?
Joe cares, Jordan. And what's more important, as far as the company is concerned, I care.
But suppose I really don't want to go into the company.
That's your business, once you get out of school. But it's my business, I think, to make sure you know how to work. Whatever work you finally get into.
But, Dad, that isn't necessary these days.
If you're ever going to be happy, Jordan, doing good work is necessary.
But suppose I didn't turn out the production or quality Joe wants.
He's the plant manager. You're supposed to cooperate with him, even if you are my son.
But this is an established business.
Don't ever get overconfident. You were a little young, Jordan, when Joe first came to work. We only had a couple of job presses then. Joe ran one of them really well, so I wanted him to take over as manager.
So?
So it wasn't very much to manage. Still, I wanted quality and production. I couldn't get it. So I asked Joe to try to instill something in the people working for me that I'm hoping he can help instill in you, too.
What's that, Dad?
Sit down, Jordan.
Yes, Dad.
Let me tell you about a little experience that happened between Joe and a young fellow working here about 15 or 20 years ago.
There was a time when more men took greater pride in the quality of their work than the size of their salaries. Now, however, it seems personal achievement in work is often taking a back seat to expediency and high production. There is a changing attitude toward work. Immediately, charges may be made that the culprits are the gigantism in business, the impersonal nature of the work that's done, or management's failure in some instances to set a proper example. Nevertheless, the Bible did encourage a man to learn to rejoice at his work, stating, "There is nothing better for them than to rejoice, and that every man should see good for all his hard work."
I'm convinced, Joe, you can handle the job. The way our work and problems are increasing together.
As long as we understand each other, Harry. However much our work is increasing, my family is still my first obligation. You know how I believe.
I understand, Joe, and I wouldn't want you to neglect your family because of your job. But we do have men working for us now who just do not have the same feeling about turning out a quality job on time that we do. I'm hoping maybe somehow you can teach them something about the attitude that you have toward work.
I don't know about whether they'll accept it.
My goodness, Joe. You've made even me accept some of this business about the Bible. I don't know why you can't make them. I don't think there are any men in this shop more stubborn than I am.
Well, anyway, Harry, what do you think the problem is?
This. We've got more men working now than we ever had, at higher salaries. We've got more equipment, and we still can't get any more work produced than when we had less and paid less. So it's only logical. It has to be in the men.
I know what you mean, Harry.
So, your first job, Joe, is going to be to do something to change it. Nothing I've tried has worked.
I'll see what I can do, Harry.
Look, kid, what are you trying to do? Set a record?
What did you say, Raleigh?
I said, what are you trying to do? Set a record? You don't get paid any more for big production than for small production.
Hey, why'd you shut off my press? I'd kind of like to get in a good day's work.
What are you going to do when you work yourself right out of a job?
I don't know how that could happen.
Simple. Company only has so much work to do, right?
Oh, they keep getting work in.
But you never know for sure.
Yeah, but the way I look at it, it isn't my problem to round up the work. I only produce it.
Well, let's say you produce faster than they bring the work in.
Then I've got some time to work on maintenance. Clean up the press, you know.
And how long are you going to drag that out? Come on, kid, get smart. You could find yourself such a big producer that there wouldn't be any more work for you. And when there's no work, the junior men are the first to go. No need to mention you happen to be junior man around here.
I can't understand that.
Some of us in the shop don't particularly like you overproducing. You kind of make us look a little bad. Get what I mean?
Sort of, I think.
One friend to another. Slow down. Relax. We'll get along just fine. Otherwise, well, it'd be a shame if anything happened to your press. Get what I mean? See you around.
Yeah. Yeah, see you around, Raleigh.
Look here, Joe, when you're running your own press, that was fine. You could do whatever you wanted to. But as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing wrong with that register.
Now, you tell me, Raleigh, what's right about the register?
Nobody will notice anything.
On a two-color job, the green is supposed to fit inside the black letters, not outside.
Who's going to know the difference?
I know the difference, and I'm not going to okay this job for printing.
You and I better get something straight right now, Joe. We've had a pretty happy shop here. We don't want you interfering with it.
I don't want to interfere with anybody's happiness, but if we're going to keep this shop open, we can't be turning out poor quality work. Now, that's all there is to it.
You're talking like a disciple of Harry Goodman now. What are you, the boss's pet all of a sudden?
The reason I want to turn out good work goes a little deeper for me than making Harry Goodman happy or even making the customer happy.
I see you've got your Bible open in your hands.
You're right. Maybe you'd like to see what I've got in this Bible in Colossians chapter 3, verse 23, where my finger is.
Yeah, I see.
Can you read it?
Whatever you are doing, work at it whole-souled as to Jehovah and not to men. Don't try to pawn off your religious beliefs on me.
I'm not trying to pawn my religious beliefs off on you, as you put it. I'm only showing you, Raleigh, why I want to turn out good work. I believe that whatever good, honest work I'm doing, I want to work at it whole-souled as to Jehovah. He's the first one I want to make happy.
Well, you do what you like.
That's exactly what I'm going to do, and that's why, Raleigh, as long as I'm responsible, you can go back and get your register straightened out.
All right. Can't argue with a man and his God.
I can't help it, Joe. I want to be happy working here. But
what, Jeff?
I don't know. I just can't seem to get myself adjusted with the other workers.
What do you mean?
I mean, I like to turn out good work. During my apprenticeship, I got a real kick out of having a job look really nice. And I still feel the same way.
Well, I respect that, Jeff.
That's just it. Some of the other men don't. And they can be pretty nasty. So, I'm not exactly sure I like working under those conditions.
Well, Jeff, it is difficult to work under that sort of criticism. After all, isn't one of the important things in life to be happy and satisfied?
But under this situation, how can I be?
Well, let me show you something here. It's in the Bible book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verses 10, 12, and 13. Here, take a look at this.
It's from the Bible?
Well, now, don't let that slow you down until you see what it says.
I have seen the occupation that God has given to the sons of mankind in which to be occupied. I have come to know that there is nothing better for them than to rejoice and to do good during one's life, and also that every man should eat and indeed drink and see good for all his hard work. It is the gift of God.
You know, when the Bible talked about man's creation in the book of Genesis, it said when God made man, he told him to work.
So, okay, we were made to work. But what does this have to do with what I just read?
Well, maybe a little story a school teacher told me as a boy might help. It's about a young prince who was bored with eating.
I think I remember, but go on.
Well, this prince wanted some food he could really enjoy because he'd lost all pleasure in food. And as the story goes, his father, the king, had every different food and delicacy in the kingdom brought to the prince in an effort to rekindle the boy's interest in food.
I'd rekindle that spoiled brat with a paddle.
But the story illustrates a point. Nothing offered the prince succeeded.
Then what happened?
Well, finally, while walking in the forest, the prince found a young woodsman, a boy about his own age. The prince mentioned his problem about eating, and the young woodsman told him he had the world's most delicious food in the sack. But he couldn't share it with him unless he helped him cut and stack wood all day. Well, the prince was so intrigued, he cut and stacked wood from mid-morning to sunset. He was exhausted and famished by the end, and it was then he ate the food which rekindled his interest in food.
I feel silly for asking, but what was the fabulous food this young woodsman was supposed to have?
Some bread and cheese.
It doesn't sound like that much.
No, but that's my whole point. It wasn't the food. It was the work he put in to get the food.
You don't mean to tell me that story is in the Bible?
No, that isn't in the Bible. It's only a story I happen to remember which illustrates the idea that I mentioned.
What was that?
That a man should eat, drink, and rejoice, and see good for all his hard work. Have you ever noticed personally how at the end of the day, how happy you are to eat that food? There's a satisfaction to it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And it isn't only food. It's your own satisfaction at doing your work well that really counts. Don't let anybody come between you and that.
To be satisfied at my work. I may be the only man in the plant to feel it, Joe, but I believe it. Thanks for talking.
I don't care what he tells you. Joe is management. You're labor. He's going to do anything to get more work out of you.
Raleigh, I think you're wet. All the way through.
I think you're a fanatic.
I don't care what you think. I enjoy turning out good work.
You think the company really cares, Jeff?
That isn't really my worry, is it? One of the main things in life is being happy. If I'm happy doing good work, then I prefer to do good work. I want to be satisfied with it.
Sounds crazy.
All right, so it sounds crazy. But that's the way I feel about it.
I think I'll have to straighten out Joe Summers about some things.
I'm not asking you to believe the same way I do, Raleigh. I'm just asking you to turn in a good day's work, that's all.
I turn in the work.
Yes, you do work, Raleigh. And I'd like you to think about that work. Did you ever consider that when someone might deliberately shirk his job and accept pay for that time, he is really accepting money for nothing? And that's sort of like...
You trying to say it's something like stealing?
Well, there is a bit of advice from the Bible which says, let the stealer steal no more, but rather let him do hard work, doing with his hands what is good work. In other words, do good work and enjoy your work.
So what am I supposed to say?
I don't know what you're supposed to say. Only if you're trying to influence other people in this plant not to work if they want to work, then that isn't a very good influence on the other workers. Don't you think it'd be better if you avoided discouraging them?
Suppose I don't.
Well, if we were having difficulties in a shop our size, do you think we'd keep a man who refuses to produce or one that is producing and turning out quality work? Do you see what I mean?
I think I get what you mean, Joe.
Good. Just keep it in mind, Raleigh.
So you see, Jordan, the man who has the good work habits is the man we keep on the job. And that's what I want Joe to inculcate in you.
Whatever happened to the young fellow, Jeff?
Jefferson Somerville is running our job press department right now. The other fellow quit.
Excuse me, Harry. I just got this stack of proofs in. I thought you might be interested in seeing what your boy was turning out.
How does he look as a printer?
Pretty good. He seems to enjoy the work, and that's good.
Maybe I'll be able to enjoy it even a little more now, Joe.
With a man there is nothing better than that he should eat and indeed drink and cause his soul to see good because of his hard work. This too I have seen, even I, that this is from the hand of the true God. Never underestimate the satisfaction of doing work well.
The program All Scripture is Beneficial was produced by the Watchtower Society and presented by Jehovah's Witnesses.